Have you ever had that feeling, the moment you finally have nothing to do and instead of feeling relaxed, this weird little panic starts to bubble up? You might tell yourself you're just ambitious or motivated, but if you're honest, it kind of feels like stopping is the most dangerous thing you could do. Well, it turns out there's a really powerful psychological reason for this, and we're going to get into it. This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. For so many of us, this isn't about hustle culture or ambition. No, it's a deep-seated, baked-in belief that our safety, maybe even our worth, is directly tied to being productive. And man, it is an absolutely exhausting way to live. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with that feeling of rest being unsafe. Then we'll trace it all the way back to its roots in our childhood, our first operating system. We'll see how it literally lives in our bodies and how generational pressures can pour gasoline on the fire. And then, and this is crucial, we're going to reframe the whole thing as a survival skill, not a flaw, and talk about what it might look like to finally just give ourselves permission to be. Okay, so let's start with the feeling itself. That moment you try to kick back and relax, but your brain just absolutely refuses to get the memo. I want you to picture this. It's Saturday afternoon, the chores are done, the errands are run, you actually have a few hours of nothing. But instead of relief, this buzz of anxiety starts up, a nagging voice that says you're forgetting something, that you should be doing something. And before you even realize it, you're up, you're checking work emails, you're organizing a closet, not because you want to, but because the stillness feels completely and totally unbearable. So here's the twist. That feeling, it probably didn't start with your first job or your adult responsibilities. It's most likely running on a piece of software that was installed a long, long time ago. Okay, there's a word for this, and it's a really important one in psychology: parentification. Basically, it's what happens when a kid has to step up and become the problem solver, the mediator, or just the emotional caretaker for their family. This isn't just about being mature for your age. We're talking about a child's nervous system learning that crisis mode is the default setting. And what happens then is your brain learns this one simple, incredibly powerful rule: being productive equals being safe. If you grew up in a home where things only felt stable because you were the one holding them together, your brain didn't just learn a habit. No, it built your entire worldview around this. Being useful wasn't for praise, it was to keep the world from spinning off its axis. So you have to understand, this isn't just a thought pattern or a mindset. It's a physiological state. It gets hardwired right into your body. When a kid is under that kind of constant pressure, especially without a supportive adult to buffer it, it creates what scientists call toxic stress. The best way to think about it is like a smoke alarm that is just blaring 24/7, even when there's no fire. Your body literally forgets what true quiet feels like because it's always scanning the horizon for the next disaster. And this really shows you the split. For a regulated nervous system, rest is how you recharge. It's safe. But for a nervous system shaped by parentification, rest feels like a threat. Calm isn't peaceful, it's unsettling. It's that feeling of just waiting for the other shoe to drop. The idea of letting your guard down, it feels like the most reckless, dangerous thing you could possibly do. Right, and this internal wiring doesn't just exist in a bubble. It gets shaped and amplified by the specific pressures of the generation you belong to. So, for example, if you're a millennial, you might have this intense cognitive dissonance. You were told you were special, that you could do anything, and then you graduated smack into a recession. It created this need to constantly perform, to campaign for your own existence 24/7. And if you're Gen X, you might be the classic latchkey kid who learned from a very young age that the only person you could truly count on was yourself. It leads to this fierce self-reliance, this expectation that the rug is always about to be pulled out. You see? Both paths can lead to the exact same place, a relentless, nonstop drive to produce. Okay, so this is probably the most important shift we need to make. We have to start reframing this impulse. This isn't a character flaw, it's not a moral failing, it's something else entirely. This quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? This is the shift that happens. Your entire identity gets wrapped up in what you do, what you accomplish, what you produce. Your worth doesn't feel inherent, it feels like something you have to earn every single day over and over again. Look, it's so important to get this. Number one, this was a smart adaptation. Your brain found a brilliant way to cope in a situation where you had very little power. Number two, that voice in your head screaming at you to keep moving, that's not your ambition talking. That's an old survival reflex. And number three, that program was absolutely essential to keep you safe as a child, but it might be an outdated program that's actually holding you back as an adult. So that brings us to the big question. How do you even begin to update that old programming? What does the path forward look like? So, the real work here isn't about gritting your teeth and learning to relax, because that usually just makes it worse. No, the real healing is about learning in your bones that you are valued for who you are, not for what you produce. It's about letting the capable, strong adult you are today step in and take over the job of keeping you safe. And it's about looking at that little kid inside who worked so hard for so long and finally giving them permission to rest. And that's really the question I want to leave you with. For anyone who's been running on this program their whole life, it's a huge one. You have been holding everything together so tightly for so long. Just for a second, imagine, what would it actually feel like to finally let go?